Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're taking on a sport that honestly looks like absolute chaos on the surface, but is actually a masterpiece of strategy underneath. We're going to be demystifying water polo, and specifically focusing on how teams actually put points on the board. So let's dive right into this.
Did you know that in water polo, the way teams score can be just as strategic as a high-stakes game of chess? It is absolutely true. If you've ever watched a match, all you might see at first is splashing, grappling, and just nonstop treading water. But the way teams maneuver to score is incredibly calculated. Every single player's position, every pass, and even every foul is part of a highly tactical offensive engine.
The fundamental objective of the sport is beautifully simple, really. Your team just needs to put that round, yellow ball into the large goal, while stopping the opposing team from doing the exact same thing to you. But if you think about the sheer core strength it takes just to wind up for a throw while floating in deep water, it is seriously impressive.
So, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the basics of water polo, understand the playing field, break down common scoring scenarios, look at offensive strategies and tactics, explore fouls and penalty shots, and then wrap it all up with a recap and final thoughts.
Section 1. The basics of water polo. 30 seconds. That single number basically dictates the entire pace of the sport. That's the standard shot clock in water polo. When a team gains possession of the ball, they have exactly 30 seconds to execute their offense and take a shot on goal. If they don't, well, it's an immediate turnover. This forces relentless, fast-paced, and highly decisive action. You literally can't just stall. You have to attack.
Now, you might be wondering, who is actually doing the attacking? A water polo team has 7 players in the water at a time. You've got 6 field players who wear either white or dark caps depending on whether they're the home or away team, and 1 goalkeeper, who is always really easy to spot because they're wearing a red cap. The game itself is broken into 4 quarters, and it's kind of wild, but the goalie has some super unique privileges. They're the only player allowed to touch the ball with 2 hands, and the only one allowed to strike the ball with a clenched fist.
Right, Section 2. Understanding the playing field.
So a absolutely crucial part of this is understanding the markers on the edge of the pool. Let's contrast the 2 most important zones. The red line marks the 2-meter zone. Think of this kind of like an offsides rule in soccer or hockey. Basically, no offensive player is allowed inside this 2-meter area unless they already have the ball or the ball is already inside it. On the flip side, the yellow line marks the 5- and 6-meter zones. These are your critical shooting areas for penalties and direct shots after certain fouls.
And of course, the most important line of the whole shebang, the goal line. The official rules define this as an imaginary laser line that runs on the front side from one goalpost directly to the other. For a goal to actually count, the entire ball must pass fully over this laser line between the posts and under the crossbar. Just a partial crossing? No way. That doesn't put numbers on the scoreboard.
Section 3. Common scoring scenarios.
Attackers have this whole crazy arsenal of shots to beat the keeper. There's the power shot, where a player literally propels their entire upper body out of the water to just blast the ball. The sidearm shot lets them slide it really quickly across the water. Then there's the skip shot, which is a massive fan favorite. The player throws the ball downward so it violently bounces off the water's surface, popping up right behind the goalie. And finally, the lob shot, where they finesse the ball in a really high, graceful arch right over the goalie's outstretched hands.
Now, the most lucrative scoring opportunity in the entire game is the counterattack. Especially in younger divisions, most goals are actually scored in transition. Just like a fast break in basketball, a counterattack happens when the defense anticipates a turnover, steals the ball, and instantly explodes toward the opposite end of the pool before the other team even has a chance to set up their defense.
Let's break down that fast break step by step, shall we? First, a defender anticipates the shot, or the turnover. Second, they immediately release, meaning they break away and sprint toward the opponent's goal, looking for a quick outlet pass from their goalie. Third, the ball is passed through the air up the pool, simply because a ball moves way faster in the air than any player can swim with it. Finally, the attacker looks cross-cage to find an open teammate for a really high-percentage point-blank shot.
Moving on to Section 4, Offensive Strategies and Tactics.
Okay, this is where the chess match truly begins, specifically during a 6-on-5, which is also known as a power play. When a defensive player commits a major foul, they're excluded from the game for 20 seconds. This gives the offense a massive mathematical advantage. Because a full third of a water polo game is often played in this exact situation, teams practice highly specialized formations just to exploit that missing defender.
Let's contrast the 2 main power play setups. First up, the 4-2 formation. Here, you place 4 players deep on the 2-meter line,
and 2 players further back around the 5 or 6 meter line. This intentionally forces one single defender to cover 2 players down low. Alternatively, the 3-3 formation puts 3 players on the 2 meter line and 3 up top. This setup practically guarantees you have an open perimeter shooter, since the defense only has 2 players available to cover the 3 attackers up top.
Now, look at how advanced teams actually put this all together. They use what are called revolving patterns. Right in the middle of a play, an offensive unit will dynamically shift from a 4-2 into a 3-3 formation. This constant, fluid motion completely scrambles a defense that is already down a player, opening up those beautifully clean, unobstructed shooting lanes. It is seriously a thing of strategic beauty.
Section 5. Fouls and penalty shots.
So there are 3 main buckets of fouls you need to know. Ordinary fouls are minor. They just result in a free pass for the offense. Exclusion fouls are major. We're talking holding, sinking, or pulling back an opponent who doesn't even have the ball. This earns the offender a 20-second timeout in the penalty box, which triggers that 6-on-5 power play we just talked about. And this is totally crucial. If a player accumulates 3 personal exclusion fouls in a single match, they are ejected for the remainder of the game. Finally, there is the penalty foul.
Which brings us to a magic number, 5. If a defender commits a major foul inside the 5-meter line that prevents a probable goal, like, say, pulling the attacker back from behind when they have a clear shot, the referee awards a penalty shot. This is a super high-pressure, uncontested blast taken from exactly the 5-meter red marker, directly against the goalie. It is hands down one of the most exciting scoring plays in the entire sport.
And finally, Section 6, recap and final thoughts.
All right, here's what you should really take away from this explainer today. Water polo scoring is heavily dictated by pool geography, specifically those 2-meter and 5-meter lines. The absolute fastest way to score is a swift counterattack. When the game slows down, success relies on executing precise 6-on-5 formations, like the 4-2 or the 3-3. And finally, understanding how to draw and capitalize on exclusion and penalty fouls is exactly what separates the good teams from the championship teams. All that chaotic splashing is truly a masterclass in tactical execution.
Just a quick note before we wrap up. This explainer is intended purely for educational purposes to help you understand the game as a beginner or a fan. If you are inspired to actually jump in the water yourself, definitely seek out local coaching for advanced rules, safety protocols, and proper training techniques.
I want to leave you with this question. After seeing the chess match beneath the surface today, which water polo offensive strategy do you find the most fascinating? Is it the sheer speed of the counterattack, or maybe the geometry of the revolving power play? Let me know. Keep studying, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.